get it in. Does to Smith. Jabari for three and the win. Yeah! He got it!
We are here to Fuel Rockets News. This is Rockets Fuel Podcast. Of course, I'm your host, Lashard Binkley. I'm a credentialed reporter covering the Houston Rockets and the Rio Grande Valley Vipers. You can always find my written work over at Rockets on SI. And you can find me weekly on Fox 26 with Nate Griffin. And of course, you can find me on Twitter at Binkley Hoops. And on today's show, I want to give my quick reaction to the Rockets going 3-0 now in the preseason for what that's worth. But again, that's still better than going 0-3 as the Rockets win tonight game against New Orleans in Birmingham, 130-128 on an Aaron Holiday floater in the lane with around 1.8 seconds left as Fear's shot at the end bounced off the back of the rim, and the Rockets are now 3-0. But I want to give my quick reaction to what I saw tonight because the Rockets did play their starters through the first three quarters, which was more of a regular rotation tonight for the Rockets up until around that fourth quarter when the starters did sit out the entire last period. I want to kind of give my quick observation as the Rockets went with the huge lineup to start the game, that quad big lineup. I mean, I know they were saying double big, but if you look at it, Kevin Durant 7 foot, yeah, Steven Adams, alperensengun, and Jabari Smith is definitely 6'10", and then you throw in Amen Thompson, who's 6'7", so you can really go with a 5-man big lineup, but at the very least, it's definitely a quad big lineup they started the game with. And the first thing that really stood out to me and the biggest benefit for anybody on the court for this huge lineup was Jabari Smith, because he was being guarded a lot of times by players like Jordan Poole and smaller guards, and he was just really able to take advantage of that inside the paint. Several times, alperensengun from the top of the paint was able to get the ball to Jabari at the basket, and Jabari was either able to get fouled or he was able to make the easy 2-point shot right on the rim. And then when he was on the outside, he shot with a lot of confidence. He finished with 26 points in the three quarters. He had a really good, efficient game. I mean, the entire Rockets starting lineup had a really efficient game. I mean, everybody was at least a plus 10 or more, plus minus. Really efficient start from the offense from the start of the game with the starters. And then it kind of slowed down there in the beginning second quarter. But then when they brought the starters back in, it picked right back up. And just like I said, Jabari was just super aggressive all game long. And I think we saw this a little bit last year when he did play that small forward position with Sengun, with Steven Adams, was that he was one of the biggest beneficiaries from that because, like I said, a lot of times they're having to put smaller players on him. Either a shooting guard or a small forward who is not going to be able to match up with him at 6'10". And Jabari has also put on weight. He's put on muscle throughout his last 3 seasons, leading up to his 4th season this year. And it's definitely starting to, show on the court. And like I said, the hesitation that he may have had in that first year or two is definitely gone. He's just shooting the ball now, which is exactly what the Rockets want him to do. Of course, he's not going to score 26 points tonight. I mean, it'd be awesome if he did, but that's not what the Rockets are going to expect from him. But the fact that he was able to take advantage of those smaller defenders trying to guard him. I remember asking him last year after a game, like, how do you, when you see those smaller guards on you, what do you think? And he said that when I see the smaller defenders on me, I just know I have to take advantage of it. I have to punish them for switching those smaller guys on me. And that's exactly what he did tonight. Again, I always say this about every preseason game. You have to take it with a grain of salt because it is preseason. But you can absolutely see this happening during the regular season as well if the Rockets do plan on going with that type of a starting lineup. And like I've been saying all offseason, all preseason, Rockets starting lineup is going to be fluid all season. I think they're going to be mixing, matching their starting lineup depending on who they're going against. Sometimes you're going to see the double big with Jabari as small forward. Sometimes you're going to see possibly Reed Shepard starting as shooting guard. Sometimes you may even see Kevin Durant as shooting. I mean, the Rockets are going to be matching their lineups all season long depending on who they're playing. So I really don't think you're going to see a set starting 5 all year just because they don't really know what they're going to get from players like Reed Shepard yet this year. So you're going to be seeing them changing up their starting lineup, I think, a lot this season, not just because of injury, just because of trying to find that right combination and trying to take advantage of the advantage that they do have, which is really mostly on the inside with the depth that they have at the forward and the center position. And then you also saw when they did take Steven Adams off the court and brought in Clint Capella. Clint Capella went out there and was blocking shots and running the court. So you're now going to see 48 minutes of the best center rotation in all of basketball with the Houston Rockets this year. Because you bring in Clint Capella, who can start for over half the teams in the NBA, and he's their third center right now. So that definitely stood out to me was Jabari's play and the double big lineup effect on Jabari being able to get those easy baskets, and also between Alperen and Steven Adams, 21 points. Another thing that stood out to me was Steven Adams. Again, doesn't have to really score to have a huge impact on the game. Just him being on the court and him being able to draw 2 or 3 defenders trying to box him out and giving other people opportunity to get the offensive rebound. And the way he sets screens, we already know about. He's one of the best screen setters of all time. Just his effect of being on the court is just huge. And now, even when he's not playing back-to-back games, you're going to have Clint Capella who can go out there and give you something else that you didn't have in the previous years. Somebody can play above the rim. Somebody that's going to be able to block multiple shots in the game consistently. Now you have him as your third center. I mean, that's just a huge benefit for the Houston Rockets, and that's something else that stood out to me. Another thing that stood out to me was Kevin Durant had a pedestrian game. And it was good that he had a pedestrian game because you still saw the Rockets were able to put up a lot of points, even with him only shooting 6 of 13 from the field. And the Rockets still were, before they took out the starters, they had like a 15-plus point lead. And then the Pelicans kind of cut into it when it was garbage time. But you saw that the Rockets aren't going to be overly dependent on Kevin Durant. Of course, you want Kevin Durant. Really, the biggest benefit of having a Kevin Durant is when you need tough buckets. When it's going to be into the game like we saw tonight, that would usually probably be Kevin Durant shooting that basket. And then in the playoffs especially, that's something the Rockets were missing last year, was a guy that can go out and score against any type of defense. No matter how good a defense is, he's still going to be able to score. And that's what you're going to really see from Kevin Durant this season. He's not going to need to go out there and score 30 points a game for the Rockets to win. And that's a good thing, because you don't need him at 37 years old having to go out there and put up his numbers he was putting up 5-6 years ago. You don't need that from him because you're going to have such a well-rounded team overall. And another player that, as far as scoring, alperensengun. I think alperensengun is actually going to probably average less than he did last year, but still have a much more efficient season. And he's going to average a career high in assists. I mean, I think that I'm not a huge betting man, but if there's some prop bet out there for alperensengun assists, absolutely take the over if it's around 6 or 7. Because I really think he's going to have a career year as an assist man this year. I think he's going to have a more efficient year. He's going to shoot well over 50% from the field, because it's just going to be a lot easier for him this season, because he's not going to have to go out there and always be going up against 2 or 3 guys trying to double and triple team him all game, because they're not going to be able to do that. Because, I mean, if you look at the other player that had a really good game, it's Amen Thompson, who I haven't even mentioned yet. He went out there and nailed 2 3-pointers and shot them like extreme amount of confidence. And sometimes he could be the forgotten player. So you're trying to double team alperensengun, or you're trying to double team Kevin Durant. You have Jabari on one wing shooting with confidence. You have Amen Thompson crashing the boards, and now he's shooting from the top of the key, shooting threes with confidence. That's going to be a lot to try to contend with if you're trying to double team and triple team alperensengun. I think those days are over. We're consistently trying to double team Sengun, because we saw it a couple of times. They tried to double team Sengun. He found Jabari for an easy shot, or he found Amen cutting to the basket for an easy layup. You're going to be seeing that all season long. So teams are going to be a real quandary for them to figure out, okay, do I double team Sengun? If I don't, he's going to go one-on-one. He's going to destroy us. If I do, he's going to find the open man. I mean, I think you're going to really see Sengun average at least 7 or 8 assists this year. And like I said, have a career high. So the fact that he didn't even have to have a huge scoring game, the Rockets still put up 130 points easily. I mean, that says a lot about how well-rounded this team is going to be. Of course, everything's going to come down to what they get from their guard position, from the Amen Thompson, from the Reed Shepherds, Aaron Holiday, maybe J.D. Davison. But ultimately, alperensengun is the point center on this team. He's the guy that's going to have the ball in his hands. pretty much almost every time down the court, initiating the offense. So, yes, it'd be good to see one of them other guys step up as a point guard, but it's really going to be Alperen Sengun. He's going to be your point center for this entire season. And also, can't forget Tari Eason. He had 20 points off the bench. He was active. He looked like his old self. He looked like Tari Eason from 2 years ago before he dealt with that lower leg injury that ended his season 2 years ago, that took him a while to get back from last season. He had a really good game, really efficient game off the bench, getting his normal steals that he always gets, bringing the energy. So just overall, it was a really good game for all of the Houston Rockets. Like I said, it was a lot closer than it really was, because when the Stars were in, the Rockets were dominating, especially in that second half. But like I said, Jabari Smith, 26 points, that stood out. The double big lineup, again, dominating, that stood out. Kevin Durant not having to have a huge game, that absolutely stood out. And the Rockets still were able to put up points. Same thing with Alperen Sengun, able to control the offense, able to be very efficient from the field. And I think that's something that bodes well for the Rockets going forward, because you don't want to have to depend on just one guy going out there scoring 30 points a game for you to be able to win games. A lot like the James Harden days back, 2 or 3 years ago, or 3 or 4, actually even more than that. Man, time is fly. Back in 2020, last time, 2020, 2021, last time James Harden was here, back in those days, you don't want to see that. You want to see a well-rounded game, well-rounded team, because when the playoffs come, you don't want to have to just depend on one guy. And it was good to see that even though Alperen and Kevin Durant didn't have huge offensive games, the Rockets still were able to dominate on the offensive end. So, again, the Rockets, to recap, the Rockets go 3-0 in the preseason. They have one more game coming up, finishing off with Atlanta before they open the season at Oklahoma City on ring night for Oklahoma City. That'll be a huge game next Tuesday. And then, of course, their home opener will be next Friday against the Detroit Pistons. That's going to be a really huge game. Of course, the Thompson twins going up against each other. It's always a good game when the Rockets and Detroit Pistons play. I'll definitely be out at the home opener, bringing you all the latest with that. But I wanted to give you my quick thoughts on tonight's game. Let me know down in the comments, what do you think of tonight's game? What do you think of, who do you think really stood out from this game? What do you think of Jabari Smith? Do you think that the Rockets should run out this quad big lineup even more than they probably was planning on doing it at the beginning of the season? Do you think they should even run that lineup possibly to start the season with going up against Isaiah Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren? Let me know down in the comments, what do you think about that? What do you think about the Rockets so far in this preseason? And as usual, I appreciate your support. Make sure if you're not subscribed to the channel, because as you see, I'm bringing you all type of content, from highlights to post-game, pre-game interview, practice, pretty much everything you can think of, I'm bringing to you on this channel. So definitely, if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. If you are a subscriber, I appreciate the support as usual. And make sure you check out the next episode of Rocket Fuel Podcast.